I'd say the bottleneck that we're working on is we're getting into automating the provisioning of our applications. You know, there's provisioning of the infrastructure, but then provisioning of the applications is the next piece. So I'd say I don't know if there's an actual physical bottleneck other than expertise in how we're using the environments that we have. I would say one thing: we're not trying. I don't believe in trying to. You know, someone asked about our IT strategy and why is it only 4 levers and why doesn't it have thousands of roadmaps and all this? And I use the analogy: you take a look at the people that invented the Internet protocol. You know, it's not IP. They didn't try to map the Internet when they invented it. Right? They said this is a mechanism to connect things, and people that the Internet grew organically, and you still couldn't do a map of the Internet. But sometimes everyone wants to know A to Z, and you just can't. You know, you have to accept the fact that, you know, there's a life business, there's a wealth business, there's commercial insurance, there's a bank, and personal insurance, and how can we have roadmaps within those, and then we do a check across the top to say, is there inconsistencies? But I think we try to be smart with how we've organized our people as well. We decided the best synergy to ensure that those problems don't happen is that we would aggregate our people by business skill, by technical skill, by city. And we had all sorts of original theories. We thought, well, we should have one great big test center. We thought, well, we're in all these different cities. How is that really going to work? And then as we started looking at automation, we thought, well, we really don't need one big test center. What we didn't think is the best synergy is having one per city. And then we put all of our like Java developers for front-end system people together by city. And then we tried to physically, as much as we can, stick people together as well. And we figured, you know, there's certain rules around collaboration. You can put tools in place, but they say, you know, you move 2 floors and your communication dies 50%. So I think we still have an issue there with logistics. I would love to have everyone co-located with the business and complete teams together. We don't have that yet. But I think we haven't tried to create a 100-page IT strategy. Our IT strategy is on a page, 1 page. And then we have roadmaps that we inject into the line of business strategies. We don't try to say that's the IT strategy, that's just a piece of theirs. And I think that works because we can focus on something we can get our arms around. Yeah, I think it's not natural. We had this discussion with a few people earlier that people are generally insular. You know, that I know what I know, and it doesn't add a lot of value for me to talk and leverage from each other. And we've tried to create environments, you know, to do that, visual control systems to do that, and setting up good coaching. And generally, when people follow success, something starts to work, then they generally start to follow it. So I think the collaboration across our groups has improved dramatically. Is it where we would want it to be? You know, probably not yet. But I'd say that the people journey is if people get their aspirations up and their energy up, they generally start doing better work, and then they generally go out and find the people that are in their natural tribe. And that's what we try to do is get people, you know, find out you can belong to multiple tribes, but don't, you know, the more people act independently, you know, the less collective wisdom we get. It probably wouldn't have worked because you wouldn't have gotten, because you have to bring, I had to create a tribe myself and say this is important that we drive this, and it took time. I mean, and what you find is, you know, your first 6 months is that you knock your head against the door all the time and people are waiting for you not to come back and knock on the door again. But then once you do, you know, the interesting thing is the demand and the drive around our agile practices is bottom up now. It's not top down. It started top, and I think you have to have somebody at the top to do it because otherwise you'll have too many, you know, aliens resistance. I mean, and then you get distracted. So I think that was an advantage for me being in that role. Well, I think one, we decided that change management is a permanent role. So our person that runs change management, in my view, is in the future for progressive companies, you will have someone in charge of change management level. It won't be something that you do as a project. Like, we need to change something, as though you change something, it never changes again. I think that is the continuous improvement is real important. I think also we took an opportunity when we had energy and we had instances, but it wasn't gaining the momentum I wanted, and we started having 2-day, hardcore, fights, because, constructive debate's required. You have to have it to talk about what's the right organization model, what are the right skills we've got to add, and what's the right methods and practices, and do we have the right people in the right areas to gain enough momentum? And we selectively, across our whole team, we're mostly, someone for me would traditionally pick their own team and their own structure. We didn't do that. We said, we got 392 roles, we're going to reduce that to 20. And you can't get to role-based development if you have that many roles. And then we also said, we are all going to collectively decide what roles are at the manager and team leader level and who those people are. So I didn't allow any of my people below me to select their own team. We all collectively had to decide. And so we were sitting there thinking, well, online internet channels is the future. We better make sure we've got the right people. How about this person over in commercial insurance, and they'll handle this, and someone in personal, and someone in banking. We were very, we debated this heavily. So I think the selection of the leaders to help facilitate and create an environment, and the selection of the model and the design of that was real important. We had an inflection point. It was really probably September. September 2008, probably, maybe a little bit before that. But it was roughly about a year ago, where we had instances, but we just didn't have the momentum that I thought was sustainable, and we went hard at it. Locked ourselves up for a few days and wouldn't let anybody go. They love it, because they're getting our subject matter experts and them. A business analyst, it shouldn't be that they go off with the business and create a huge requirements definition and hand it to developers. They're part of the whole development cycle, and I think your role changes through a project. So the fact that they're part of an entire team, if you look at the fulfillment on the BAs, it's much higher than it was. And the activities they're involved in are different. BAs can do testing. They can do, you've got to think that their role is not necessarily just a business analyst. It's someone to help that project complete. I think there's gaps in certain areas of training, and the thing is, as we get more mature, the interesting thing is we see things we're missing. Mm-hmm. I think product development, for one. I think software companies have done a better job inherently with agile techniques than big companies, because they don't look at things just as project. It's an asset, and SAP is not going to go redesign their basis layer, every quarter. But what they do is every week they reprioritize the requirements based on what they're seeing, and they reprioritize their backlog, and then they go into their sprints and run a product company that way. And I think there's certain things around product management that we're trying to get our hands around. And I don't think we're experts in that. And I think there's areas in that area. And I think we may be doing a little work there, but that's one gap that comes to mind that I don't think as a business we're good at. And I think there's software companies that do this. And I'm hoping some of the people that have had experience in using Agile in product companies to contribute content, I think that'd be great.